Okay, I hope everybody has fared well through the winter storm. I'm making a little video to inform you of a couple of updates. So, first, the college is closed through February 21st. So, February 22nd is going to be the first day that the college is open again. As such, I've pushed exam one back until February 22nd at 11:59 p.m. Right now, the priority is just staying safe and well, and I see the snow melting and the roads clearing, and people are starting to get electricity and internet back, and that's good. With that said, we have a very busy week coming up after Monday, and I've made a couple of changes, notably to the syllabus and the schedule, that are going to impact the way that this class is going to be done from here on out. The first of those changes is in the syllabus. So let's go ahead and take a look. So if you navigate to syllabus, you'll see adjusted for snow. You don't have to print out the entire thing again. The changes are coming with the grades. So when you see exams still the same percentage, weekly quizzes, but handouts associated with lectures are now not optional, they're mandatory, meaning that there is a letter grade applied to those, there is a point total applied to those that tacks on to the class total. So, starting in week 5, you're going to have to submit your lecture handouts and you're going to have to submit them before we meet that week, right? So, the quiz due dates and things like that are going to change in order to make sure that everybody who attends Wednesday and Thursday sessions has actually done the work that week. So, there's going to be 10 of these worth 5 points apiece, and that's a total of 50 points. And then there's going to be 2 lab submissions. The first is going to be in the skeletal system, and it's going to go over bones and bone markings of the axial and appendicular skeleton, which is incredibly memory intensive. The second is going to come in Unit 6 with skeletal muscles, where you have to learn 65 skeletal muscles, and you have to be able to spell them and identify them for the exam. So those 2 labs are going to be worth 25 points a pop, and you're going to be submitting those. I'll walk you through how to do that when we get into Unit 3, although you probably will be able to figure it out just if you navigate to Unit 3 when it opens up after next week. So you'll see that the point totals have changed and the grading structure has changed. Now, the extra credit, that's it for the semester. What you see there, I'm not going to give any more, just to be consistent with what happens with respect to clinical classes, which give no extra credit, and usually a passing grade is above 84%. So their criteria for passing is different, and I'm going to run it a bit more like a clinical program now. So, lecture and lab material, big change. Handouts are now required, right? They're now mandatory. And when you go to the schedule has been updated, and you may want to print that out. And it's been updated to reflect this change. So you'll see snow days, and then February 22nd, that's going to change. So we're just pushing the exam due date back one day. Now, the next week, all of your handouts for the histology section, which is essentially lecture block 1, it's about an hour and a half of total lecture, are going to be due on Tuesday at 11:59 p.m., right? The histology quiz, which is worth 16.67 points, is going to be due Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. Because when we begin class on Wednesday and Thursday of this week, it's no longer going to be me talking, because what I noticed is that I think students are just logging in and taking off. I'd say about half of students are doing that. So nobody's getting anything out of it. And what I want to do is I want to shift it so people start getting something out of it. So we're going to work in small groups. And in order to get any extra credit, 1, you have to have all the required assignments submitted on time, and 2, you're going to have to answer a question that I ask you when I navigate to your small group. You're going to have to open up your camera and you're going to have to answer a question, right? And that's just to hold people accountable, not out of any malice, but because I want to see your grades improve. And the only way they're going to improve is if you're engaged in the course. So you'll see lecture handout over the integument, not the tissues. The integument is due Saturday, February 27th at 11:59 p.m. You're also going to have quiz 6 over the integument. So when you're looking at this, you can go, okay, now I have a different structure to what's going on. Some things are due on Sundays, other things are going to be due on Tuesdays at 11:59 p.m. in order to prepare for the upcoming week, because exam 2 is going to be due Sunday, February 28th. Unit 2 is the easiest unit of all the units we go over. So if I'm going to accelerate the timeline in order to accommodate for these snow days, I'm going to do it with Unit 2. Now, how do you do this? When you say lecture handouts, one, if you don't know what those are, that's a problem right off the bat, but let's go ahead and go to week 5 content block and let's see. So we have lecture 1, epithelial tissue, lecture 2, connective tissue, lecture 3, muscle, and nervous tissue. When you look at these, you go, okay, so histology is going to cover all of that. Everything within the scope of those lectures is part of my responsibilities. Then you have the link to submit the assignments for the week. So if you click on this, you'll see epithelial handout, connective and muscle handout, right? And you're going to submit them respectively in those spots. And this is going to be worth points for the week. It's no longer optional or recommended, it's now required. I'm doing something very similar to the change I made in my intro class that improved grades across the board. So when you're looking at this, you go, well, what is a handout? Epithelial tissue, there is a lecture. You have to go over that lecture, and you got the lecture in both PowerPoint and PDF format, and you also have the lecture handout. If you go to the lecture handout, you'll see something that looks like this. Follow along 1, follow along 2, follow along 3. These are the key points to take away from each section of the lecture. So for example, define histology. Histology is the study of tissues. Now you can write this directly on the Word document. If you do, please change the color of your answers from that of the question text so it makes it easier for me to distinguish between the two. Also, you'll have to save it as a PDF, not a Word document. Anybody who is an ACC student and has an ACC email is entitled to Microsoft Office Suite for free. So if you Google Microsoft Office Suite, the first Microsoft Office Suite ACC, the first hit will be a web page with a link to the actual download. So everybody has access to Microsoft Office. So you can do it like that, or you can print it out and write it out by hand and scan it, for example, with your phone and submit it that way. Either way is fine. In fact, I like it when it's handwritten because I know you did it. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to be submitting these handouts. You have 3 to do by Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. because the exam is coming up pretty soon. You're going to be submitting these handouts under the appropriate link. So for the Unit 5, where there's multiple lectures, link to submit assignment handouts, epithelial handout, connective and muscle handouts, right? So those are going to be up until Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. If you go to the integument, there's only one lecture, so it's just a little bit different. It's a single lecture, and you have the integument lecture, then you have the lecture handout in Word and PDF format. You shouldn't be confused about what's going to be on the exam, because what's going to be on the exam is coming directly from these handouts and directly from my lectures. Right? Every single thing, if we were to go over the exam one by one, everything on it comes directly from these. So you go, okay, I am going to watch the lecture, I'm going to do the handout, watch the lecture, and do the handout correspondingly. Pause if you need to, fast forward if you've gone over it, and then you're going to be submitting that in week 6 handout submission. This is no longer optional, it is required as a part of the class. And that's it, really. So those are the major changes that have been made, and I look forward to Wednesday or Thursday, depending on what class you're in. It's going to be none of me talking. I'm going to break you out into small groups right at 5 minutes after, and you guys are going to work in small groups to complete specific tasks, and everybody in your group is going to be required to participate. And in order to get extra credit for that day, for actually attending that session, you have to, one, have your assignments done. If you don't have your assignments done, I'm not going to give extra credit. In fact, I'd prefer you just not log in if you don't complete the work beforehand, because you're going to lag other people up. And 2, you're going to have to answer a question that I ask you. So you're actually going to have to engage with me at least once throughout the course of that in order to receive your extra credit. Your group members are also going to have to attest to the fact that you're contributing. So that's the crux of the changes. Thanks, and be safe.